Get your book back?
I did.
Yeah, about that. I'd like to have that myself. I haven't seen a portfolio like that.
Tom, what did it mean to you guys to be able to put the banner up tonight and kind of put a bow on last season?
Oh, that was really big. I had not seen the banner, and I hadn't seen how it was going to be raised or any of that. That was a moving moment. There's no question about that. When you come in here every day, like we have and like I have since April 2nd of 2008, and you look at those banners, there's no question you want to be a part of raising one of your own in the program, and it felt great, and it felt great to be able to share it at a night like this when so many people that were here through all those days when it didn't look like we'd get a banner, and they were here to help sharing it too. I just wish that all the former players that have worked over the last 5 years could have been back to see it live. That was a really big deal.
Anybody do anything that kind of impressed you? It seemed like Hollowell looked kind of good.
Well, it's a little different mindset for me because we had a 2-hour practice today, and he's playing better. I mean, Jeremy's playing better. There's going to be some really hard days, and there's going to be some good days. I mean, it is a young team, and we're playing without 3 guys. Noah's situation was he injured his ankle in Wednesday's practice, and we're going to take it easy. He didn't go today, and he shot a little bit today, and then he wanted to be he'd have been in the dunk contest, which would have brought a new fervor to that, but as would have Troy. But we didn't want to risk him right now, and I don't think we will this weekend either. Troy will start next week, and Luke is still a few weeks away. We miss those guys. I mean, we miss their work ethic, their energy. We miss the athleticism, all those things right now, and they're missing it because we're in such a learning period of time, and you're always reteaching every season. But when you have veterans, a lot of times that's just what you're doing. You're reteaching it. It's not like where they're learning it for the first time, and we have some of that. So there's going to be guys that are going to stand out different ways. I think the biggest thing for us right now in the first week is before we can get the identity, we've got to develop some personality. Some personality on the floor in the sense of the communication, in the sense of the 50-50 balls, in the sense of really showing a competitive spirit, and not just when we're fresh and not just when it's scrimmage time, but all those things. And we're trying to build that endurance mentally, more importantly than physically right now. You're not going to try to push guys physically yet, but you do got to push them mentally a little bit, so where they start to absorb the concepts and retain it, so that we can move forward over the next few weeks. But everybody on this team has had flashes in the first week, and everybody on this team has had segments where they're not going on a highlight tape, they're going on a low light, and that's just what it is, and we're going to have days like that.
Any idea what happened with Stanford?
I think it's the early thought would be from in there that it's a bruise, and I mean I say that hopefully, I say that as what was said in there. Looked like everything was intact. I hope that that's what it continues to be. But I mean, Dr. Alfeld was on it right away. So
Bruised knee.
Bruised knee, yeah, bruised knee. So we'll see. We'll get a little bit more of an update. He was in a lot of pain, but I mean, those hurt like that. So hopefully everything will be good there. We don't need any more guys missing time. They're going to play.
Can you just talk about him, though? I mean, he seemed to be really attacking the basket.
Yeah, he did. He did the other day. We scrimmaged the other day, and in 25 minutes of scrimmage, he had 14 free throws. He drew like 7 or 8 fouls, actually. I mean, he did a fantastic job in getting to the basket. He's very careless with the ball at times. He's got to continue to learn what we want with pushing it out, being in the pick and roll, making the simple play, getting rid of the casual dribble. But he is a downhill player. He's a guy that really can drive the ball downhill, get to the basket. He's crafty. Now we need him to defend at a really high level. Rebound it, guard rebounding. I mean, you guys see it. I mean, we've led the country the last 2 years in three-point shooting overall, and that's going to take a small miracle for that to happen. So we got to find different ways to score. We got to shoot the ball. We'll get better shooting the ball. We spend a lot of time on it, but we got to be a great rebounding team. Not an above average, but a great rebounding team. And if we're going to keep our energy game and speed game and all those kind of things going the right way. And so we've got guard rebounds are going to be huge. I think it's going to be one of the great deciders in what the minutes look like as we go down the line. And even for a guy like Yogi and Evan with the defensive boards. So those are things that are going to be really important. That's an area that Stan's got to continue to improve upon.
Does this team remind you of, in terms of its development, of any previous IU teams that you've had at this same stage?
No, not at all. It's way too young. I mean, I think when you think about this, you got 6 freshmen and we got a couple walk-ons, so there's really Jeremy and Peter and Hunter are like freshmen. I mean, Peter is because he hasn't played, and that's not good. That's the worst turnover of the night right there. That's not coming back. But Jeremy played some, obviously. Hunter didn't play a lot, so it's really like having a brand new team, with the exception of Yogi and with the exception of Will. And so, no, I don't have anything to liken it to. It's a talented group. I mean, there's no question that there's talent. I mean, the 3 guys sitting out tonight are very talented. It's just going to take time for all that to mesh. It's going to take time for them to understand the spacing. Our spacing is something we spend a lot of time on offensive. We've put hardly in any plays. And it's not about that this time of year. It's really about getting the concepts down, the spacing. But they've been well coached, but everything really here right now is new. And they're trying to just keep their head above water with the work ethic and the energy level that's required. And we're not even practicing that long. It might seem like it is to them, but it's not. It's more about getting that mental endurance to be, like I said, to be able to get through things. Then the physical endurance will come from that.
Tom, what are you seeing from Peter? I mean, he seemed pretty mobile, pretty effective tonight.
You saw one of his better nights. So with the points, made a post move. I hadn't seen that. But he's our stretch 5 man. You've heard of the stretch 4. I'm not joking. It's what he is. He can make shots, and we thought about putting him in the 3-point contest, but he's got a space for us. He's still not 100% healthy at all. We're going to lose him here for a little bit when he goes home to see his dad, which is incredibly important because he's probably not going to see him again. And that's really important. So just trying to get everything squared away so that his paperwork is good going in and coming back. But he's got to make shots. He's got to be able to block some shots. Played within himself tonight. I thought that was good. He still plays too high. You want to play big, but you never want to play as big as you are when you're driving the ball. When you're setting screens, when you're carving out space. You got to get low. You got to get your shoulders low. He's struggling right now getting his hips down and his shoulders as low as they have to be. So that's an ongoing thing for him. But it's an ongoing thing for all of them right now to learn how low they have to play.
Was that your idea to have Mr. and Mrs. Zeller here? Or?
No, it was their idea to come. It was my idea to have them be the judges. And now that was a cool moment when they got the standing ovation. That was a cool moment. And I didn't even ask them personally because I didn't want to run the risk of Mrs. Zeller saying, no, I don't want to do that. You get them to come out like that. And I just thought it made sense. But this was their choice to come. So I thought that was fantastic. And I don't think there's any question Cody and Victor would have been here if they weren't in the situations they're in with their teams. So Cody's been tweeting about it all week. So, but I thought that was awesome. And I think the fans to respond like that to them is, just shows what kind of legacy Cody's going to carry here at Indiana.
With as young as this team is, how important is it that they started earlier than basically you normally would?
Oh, I think that's very important. I think it's going to be a balancing act. I mean, we've been, beginning of the week, we went Friday and Saturday, took Sunday off. We went Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, took Thursday off, came back today. We'll go through the weekend. We'll take Monday or Tuesday off. We'll just keep building it up. And I think that's really important. We're going to go really hard when we're in here, and we're going to make sure that there's still enough teaching time, so they got to go mentally hard. But we're not going to overdo it physically, and we're not going to overdo it lengthwise when it comes, because it will be a long season. And I've coached a new team, obviously, and coached a young team, the 2008-09 team that had a ton of walk-ons and guys that first got here. This is different because it's a different level of talent here, but it's still the same thing. They're extremely young guys that are getting ready to go through a season unlike anything they've ever experienced because of the length of it and the intensity of it.
Did Hunter also seem a little more comfortable?
He's had a good week. He has. He's been growing in there, and he's a guy that. Now there's a guy we've really pushed physically because he needs to, as is Jeremy. Those guys need to play through fatigue if they're going to play the kind of minutes that we'd like to see them play. Optimally, I think this becomes a deep team that can do more defensively and use their length. We had a situation the other day. I said this the other night at the speech at the auditorium, so I don't want to be repetitive on it. But Noah, Peter, and Hunter were 3 of the 4 guys in a shell drill. That's 26 inches of wingspan, okay, of extra wingspan. And they all had their hands down at one point. When we figure out how to play with our arms up, our hands up, get deflections, move our feet, be active, cover ground, then we're going to be much, much better. That's going to take time. So Hunter's the epitome of that. get in great physical shape, be able to endure it, be able to play long stretches, and then slow down. Slow down. He's playing better in space, and he's playing better when there's not a lot of traffic around. He still doesn't do a great job in traffic. That's going to take a while. But his footwork is tremendously improved. He really wants to grow into being a guy. We're trying to get him to be that absolute pit bull that we recruited. And with that, I think for him to get that, he's going to have great confidence. And that's going to grow. That's going to take time. He's going to have to do it in games. And there's 3 levels of how you grow. You've got to absorb it. You've got to be able to retain what you absorb. And then whatever you retain, you've got to be able to apply in the games. And you really haven't applied it till you've applied it under pressure. Until you've applied it, when it's crazy and chaos and loud and hot, and it's just that you got to go out there and you've got to be able to do it. And I think the bottom line with this team, if I had to sum it up, all the way across the board, we got a lot of old habits to break and a lot of new habits to build. And I have no idea what the timeline is going to be on that, but it is what it is, and we just got to work towards it and not deviate from what's important, not let these guys slip up and correct the bad habits when they're there, or the habits that they haven't formed yet for what it takes at this level, and coach like crazy.
Time for one more.
Coach, I know Wednesday night you talked about defensive communication being a bit of a crisis at the moment. Have you seen any improvement the past couple of days on that?
Yeah, not in this, but I didn't think we would in this. But yeah, we have. But I mean, it's an ongoing thing. That hasn't been. They're absorbing it, because if we don't do it at the end of practice, after practice, we run for it, because we've got to get it across. I mean, the hardest thing to get a team to do, and I don't know how it is in the other sports, but I know it's just become. This is where all the nonverbal communication, all the social media, all the things come in and make it harder and harder and harder for a team to verbally communicate. And it's always been hard, but it just keeps getting harder and harder. So you're really fighting the human element every day when you're trying to get a team to communicate. And you've got to teach it, you've got to coerce it, you've got to force it, you've got to demand it. I mean, you name the adjective, and you've got to have that when it comes to communication, because you cannot win if you don't have that kind of communication. And what they'll learn is communication builds confidence. And when you're really talking on defense, it's like adding an extra defender. When you start to talk on defense, when you start to force the ball to a sideline, when you get it down there on a baseline, you're adding defenders. Those sideline and baselines they're built-in defenders. Communication's a built-in defender, and we've got to learn that. And that's just going to take some time for us.
Thanks.
Yep. Thank you. Thanks for coming.